Welcome back to another episode of Coffee Talk. I'm elated to have all of these wonderful women here with me today to talk about a topic that some don't want to talk about, but a lot do, and we all love it. That's marriage and faith. And so before we get started, I'm going to go ahead and pray and ask the Lord to join us in this conversation. So, Lord, I just thank you today for this wonderful group of diverse women who have taken time off their Sunday to join me in this conversation. I pray that you help us all just to relax and just to be ourselves and just to know that, God, that you have created us for a purpose, and even in marriage and faith, how they can come together and unite. So I thank you, and I ask for you to allow your son to be here. In your son's name I pray. Amen. So I think everybody has been here, and so I always ask the same question, but I'm going to ask it again. Does anybody drink coffee here? Let's start with you first, Donna.
Sorry, I was clearing my throat. I do. We love coffee. So we have the Nespresso, we have the French press, we have regular coffee. I actually just bought some coffee recently that also had like lion's mane in it, and that's for energy and focus. So we love it all.
Okay, Lisa?
Okay, I think I just ordered that coffee Donna's talking about, because I just ordered some that's coming with mushrooms in it.
Yeah.
But as far as coffee goes, I can't say that I'm a connoisseur of coffee, but I am of creamers, because if I can use enough white chocolate macadamia creamer to cover the flavor of coffee, then I have my cup of coffee every day.
Okay, that's joy too. Delia, you.
I don't drink that much coffee, but right now pumpkin spice is in season, so I love that idea. I like taking that in when it's that season. So yeah.
Okay, Joy.
Yeah, you know what? I was visiting a friend in Tampa and she had the Nespresso machine. And I'm not a big coffee drinker. I drink a little when I need to clean my house, or something like that. I need some extra energy, so espresso. But that Nespresso machine was like changed my life. And so I told her when I got home I was gonna order it, and I got on Amazon. It was $270. I said maybe a Christmas present, because that might be a little bit, because I'm not really an avid drinker, but it was smooth like hot chocolate. And so yeah, so I'll drink it when I need some extra energy, but I don't drink it every day. I'm more of a tea person.
What about you, Susie?
So I'm a very routine person. I do drink coffee, but I'm not a connoisseur. I have like one cup every morning and it's always the same, my mocha with the same creamer, one pack of stevia, like it's always pretty much the same. And if I ever have another cup of coffee, it's always a decaf. I can only do like one cup of decaf a day.
So we have a mixture, and I remember Donna when we met, you talked about the Nespresso, and then Joy talked about the Nespresso. I was like, I gotta try this because I've never tried it, so I really don't know about the Nespresso type of thing. Well, today, what did you say, Joy? What did you say? Okay, I'm good. Well, maybe you can buy it for me for Christmas.
I'm thinking my birthday's gonna come up first, right? December 31st is when that is. So
okay, all right. So today's topic is going to be one that's going to be a fun one, and one it may not be always fun, but it's okay. I kind of want to start off this conversation. Yesterday, I was meeting with a friend, and she just got married 6 months ago. So I was teasing her. I said, I'm not going to include you in this conversation. You don't need faith yet for marriage because she's only been married for 6 months. She was laughing. It's like, yeah. I was like, but it's true though, because when you first get married, it's marriage. But as you've been married for a while, like we all have, that it's marriage and the integration of faith together. And so, but before we get into all the other stuff, I want to kind of know your quick love stories. I want to start first with Joy.
That's a mistake, but my husband and we went to college, didn't know what we wanted to be when we grew up, and so all of our friends were graduating, and so we just laugh and we say that we were the last ones at the Chili's table at LSU. And so it's like, you know what? I think you're cute. Yeah, you too? All right, great. And so I think that's really our love story. We just sort of were late bloomers, and we just kind of began the friendship, and then everyone was gone, and it's like, oh, okay, I think I love you. So that's where we met at LSU. I was the first cougar, and I was 20 and he was 19. I always say I was the first cougar, but we met there, and now we have these people here, these teenagers that are putting us on our knees every day, and so we've been married for 20 years. This year was the 20th year, and so Kedron, that's my ride or die. He's my best cheerleader.
Yes, it is. Anybody jump in? Donna.
Okay. I usually tend to jump in, so I was trying to let somebody else do it, give some airspace, because Susie's laughing, she knows. So I met Brad at a Bible study. I worked with a particular lady, and her husband worked with Brad, and they were doing a Bible study at their house. And so they decided as a couple that Brad and I should date. And so, not telling us, they invited us to the Bible study, but not telling us they wanted us to date. They got each of us to go to the Bible study. I remember the day I walked in, I'd been in awful traffic. I think Delia was saying she'd been in terrible traffic on the way here. So I was all stressed out. My friend Melody opens the door and I'm complaining about traffic. And I look over and there's this really adorable guy, so cute, in a yellow baseball cap over there playing pool. And then I got to sit next to him at the Bible study and he talked about how much he loved Jesus and his mother. And I thought, I think I'm in. Count me in.
Okay. Jesus and your mother.
Yeah,
All
Jesus
right.
and his mama. I thought
Okay.
he'll treat me right.
Okay. Okay. Delia.
Wow. Okay. So, ah, I started going to a church right after I got saved. And I went with my whole family. I filled the conversion van full of Mexicanos, and I saw a boy looking at me, and I thought, no, I'm all in for Jesus. I'm gonna focus, you know. And he thought that one of the guys that I was with was my husband or something. And later on, I fell in love with this boy at church because I fell in love with his heart. He could preach and he could vacuum and wash dishes and help out at church. And it wasn't about a title, it was about his heart. And I just really fell in love with his humble heart. So
How long have you guys been married, Delia?
it'll be 24 years in December.
And her daughter just got married, what, about a month ago?
Oh, a couple of weeks ago,
A
yeah.
couple weeks ago. So
Our first of four got married,
the
so
first of four.
very
Wow.
exciting.
So 24, then Joy, you're 20, and Donna, you're
19.
19. Okay, Susie.
So my husband and I met as teachers. He was teaching middle school and I was teaching elementary, and then I transferred to the middle school. And that's how we first met. We were just friends at first, nothing romantic, just a friendship. And then it blossomed into more than that. And but we knew, I think once we started dating, we knew pretty quick. So we dated a year, and then we were engaged, and then we were married 3 months later. So we got married on spring break. We were teaching the same school. So I left for spring break as Miss Sedgwick, and I came back as Miss Randall after spring break. So and we've been married 18 years. We have 2 daughters, and we've been married 18 years. So kind of like Joy, I'm the cougar. I'm 4 years older than him. And he's also my ride or die. He's my best friend, and yeah, we do life together. So
He's that guy that will cook, kind of like Joy's husband, cooks and does all those things. And yeah, I'm not jealous, nothing like that. Don't worry about it. Lisa, go ahead. You. Lisa, what about you?
Okay. My husband Dan and I met in college, and he remembers picture day because I was working in the bookstore and I was wearing a red dress, and he came to get his books. Later, there was an orientation in an auditorium on campus, and he was on one side of the auditorium telling his roommates, I saw her first. And I was on the other side of the auditorium with my roommates saying, girls, I saw him first. And so we actually met. Our meet cute was one day I was headed to soccer practice, and I got to the soccer field and practice had been canceled. So on my way back, he's playing tennis at the tennis courts, and his roommate gets a phone call. So he's standing there with a racket and nobody to play. So with my cleats on, I went in and played tennis with him. I grew up with a tennis court and a pool in my backyard, and so I knew how to play. Funny stories. But anyways, we've been married now for 28 years in December.
Wow.
And have 4 kiddos, and our oldest is gonna have our first grandbaby in November.
Wow, congratulations.
Yeah.
So 28.
Yes.
28, 24, 2018, and Della, you're 22 years? 24, and I'm 18 as well. Okay, so I think we've kind of set the foundation of our love stories, and I think I know everybody's husbands here, and all of the unique nuances that of love and all those type of things. So I'm moving quickly on to the next thing. I was talking to Kilrain today. You guys know my husband. And we were talking about us. He said, "You actually got women to get together and talk about marriage." I was like, "Yeah, I did." And he said, "It's kind of like it's like the secret society. Marriage is like we all want to be a part of it. Once we get a part of it, we stop talking about it." And so then you have all these young women come into marriage, and they just have the same idealistic things that lots of times that we had, unless you're like Donna and Joy, and Deli. Actually, all of you who just like, this is what it is. This is what this is how you walk through it. Who kind of straight to the point kind of women. But a lot of Christian women in particular come into marriage with the marriage part, but not understanding so much how the marriage and the faith integrates together. So before I talk about marriage, I want to talk about your own faith journey. How did you guys meet the Lord? Tell me a little bit more about that journey. Let's start with Joy.
Yeah, we were Baton Rouge, Louisiana. I don't know if you remember Jimmy Swaggart Ministries there. And so we were kids, bussed in, we were apartment kids. And so we were bussed into the ministry. I think Rochelle went first and accepted Christ. And then I did next. One of those, I remember they bussed us in and somehow my mom picked us up and I don't remember why that was. And I was just like, what did they do to you? Like, I just, Jesus, because he's on my heart. And I just remember just not even being able to articulate as a teenager, but knowing something had happened in that space with Glenn Berto in that building. And so that's sort of my faith journey. We come from a family of faith and, all the history and all of that, but you have to have your own experience. So in my teenage years is when I had experience with Christ and many of those experiences in those teenage years.
Anybody else jump in, ladies?
I'll go next.
Go ahead.
I grew up in Chattanooga, Tennessee, and both my dad and my grandfather taught in the seminary at Tennessee Temple University. So I grew up practically in the church, but I have a very clear, vivid memory of when I was 6 years old, sitting in church and listening to the preacher who was also of that evangelist era, listen to him give a hellfire and brimstone speech that left me terrified. Like I went home and I did not sleep that night. And I kept knocking on my parents' door, wanting to talk to them. And they just thought I was trying to stay up and go back to bed, Lisa. And in the morning, I told my mom, I'm so glad I didn't die in the night because I just need to ask Jesus into my heart. But later as a teenager, I got to go to camp for teens and hear God's word in a new way. And what I realized later as an adult, because I was like, did I ask Jesus into my life as a child, as a teenager? And what I realized in adulthood was that when Jesus says, let the little children come to me, he's accepting their faith as it is. And my faith as a 6-year-old, I absolutely believed that Jesus was my ride or die, my person. And that didn't change. And when I became a teenager, I realized, okay, I'm learning about my faith. I'm exploring what all that means. But my faith was solid as a 6-year-old. I trusted with what I had. And so the beauty of that is then going on into, like you said, with marriage and faith, finding a spouse that also is on a trajectory, on a journey with Christ. And I knew as a college student that I wanted to be a wife and a mom one day. And I knew that as part of my faith and what I was looking for in a mate, I was looking for somebody that wanted to love Jesus alongside me and serve Jesus in whatever way. And so when I met my husband and he was working with youth in a church, I was like, yeah, okay, I could do this. But when I first went to college, I will say that I had a rule that I did not date preacher boys because I was the child of several preachers. And I was like, no, I am not a preacher's wife. I am not going to be a preacher's wife. I'm not dating preacher boys. And I held to that. When I met my husband, he was a history major.
But now his doctor's in what, in what?
He has
Yeah.
a doctorate in New Testament, and this fall he'll be teaching Greek language classes at Dallas Theological Seminary.
You still went
Wow.
back to the same thing, for sure.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Donna?
Is it, well, I was thinking, isn't it funny how we make all these plans and we try to boss God and tell him
Yep.
what we know and what we won't do, and then he just laughs and he does it anyway. Welcome to, living the Christian life, the Christian walk. So I was thinking, as you ladies were talking, Lisa and Joy, about that, it's so interesting, depending upon the denomination that you grew up in or the religion that you grew up in, what that equaled for the walk of salvation, right? So I grew up Church of Christ, and they were really big on an age of accountability. There's an age of accountability. You'll get to this age and you'll know that you should be saved. And you have to at least be that age to truly understand, that you need to be saved. But Lisa, I lean your direction now as far as, I agree with that scripture and I understand it now. You weren't asking about me, but my daughter actually asked to be saved when she was in, I think it was second grade. So she was little bitty. There was no age of accountability. That being said, whatever your story is, isn't it beautiful that you have one? Right? Because that's what we want for everybody. So mine was, we're sitting in church, Little B Church of Christ in Irving, Texas, Beltline Road. Let me give a shout out. I loved my home church. And my friend went forward and she accepted Jesus and was baptized. And I started thinking, oh, we're the age of the accountability now. This is it. Oh, okay. I finally made it. And I don't think age mattered. It was that I knew it was time for me to accept Jesus in my heart. So the next Sunday, we took a long walk down the aisle when they did the call to the altar, and I'm sweating, all this stuff, and go down there. And then it hit me that it had nothing to do with me per se. It had to do with him and what he gave to us and what Jesus sacrificed for us, and pulling that into my life permanently through the Holy Spirit, through baptism. So anyway, that's my short version of my story, but I just think it's interesting hearing everybody's. Thank you, Chriselle, for asking such a lovely question.
It is different because everybody's different, and I know Delia and Susie have different stories as well. But I think it all kind of correlates with the type of person that God puts in our lives and how we actually walk out our faith journey. It's all important because your husbands are all different, but they're all Christians. But the way they walk out their faith it has to be similar somewhat to yours, because if not, then there will be some clashing of how it's walked out. All right, Delia.
Wow. Okay. So I was raised in Minnesota and I got saved when I was 22. And so I knew when I gave my heart to the Lord, I thought to myself, I've been all in for Satan. I'm going to be all in for Jesus Christ. And I started street preaching at 22. I mean, I've full blast into ministry. If the doors were open, I was there. And it was a love relationship. I did not understand exactly because I was raised Catholic, I didn't exactly understand the cross or regeneration or what it all exactly meant. And so, but I knew that I had fallen in love with God and that he wanted a relationship with me. I knew that deep in my soul, in my bones, I knew it. And I didn't exactly know how to walk it out, but I figured I wasn't going to sit around and wait. I was going to learn as much as I could, be surrounded by Christian people. I honestly thought I was like in heaven when I was surrounded by Christians, because I didn't understand, like, we're still human. I just knew everybody has the Holy Spirit in their heart right now. And I'm in the room with people to me, it just blew my mind. But so, I was the first in my family that I know of to accept Christ. And my goal is and was to see them all, give their heart to the Lord. And my husband is opposite of me, though. He is, he got saved when he was like 6. He never drank. He was an old soul from the very, it doesn't even, I don't know if you guys understand what I'm saying, but but yet we learned so much from each other. And I am so blessed that I have a husband that really guided. I could ask a lot of questions to, and he could guide me and not judge me, I guess. I don't know, but so that's my story.
And I think that it's interesting, Deli, because I was talking to Susie, I think a couple days ago, and we're talking about, I was making fun of myself. We do that a lot, we talk a lot, but I was talking about drinking and going to clubs and all that stuff. I didn't do that stuff. Again, I'm not saying nothing's wrong with alcohol. If you guys drink, you drink. I'm not saying that, but it has to be because I got saved so young, because the background that we came from. It's not that everybody did that stuff. It's just that if we probably would have done it, nobody would have said anything at any point, but I did not. And because of that, I forget that Christ, like you said, he found me in love. Like, I had a love relationship. It was not a rule one. It wasn't set by rules. It was love. And I think because of that, in my young mind, I figured, okay, I want to make this lover happy. Like in Trent, going back to marriage, but Jesus is our love. We're going to make him happy. So then I did the things that I thought, not all right, but that it actually kept me on this green path of where I sometimes think, you never did what? You didn't do. I'm like, oh, I didn't do any of that. But I didn't do any of that stuff. And so I was telling Susie, I said, I really kind of got a little bit wild about 28. Joy, don't ask me what it was. I got a little wild about maybe about 28, a little bit more risky. I stopped praying and things like that. But God still, he brought me back. So I think, again, it's like we all have different stories. But I think it all stems from a love relationship, a love of God. Because if it's just rules, just like any rule, we're gonna stop doing it. But if it stems from love, then we come back to it, and then we figure out how to work within our own misconceptions of whatever it means to be a Christian or not, of salvation, regeneration, all those words that I'm still learning. But I think that's beautiful, Delia. And Susie?
Save me for last.
Okay.
So I had a little bit of a different upbringing. I did not grow up in the church, and my earliest memories of church were Catholic. We were Catholic, and we went to mass every Sunday. But eventually we stopped going, and we didn't go anywhere. And so I went to the First Baptist Church with some of my friends. And when I was 8, I got saved. Like, I did the walk down the aisle and got saved, and I got baptized, but I don't think I really knew what it meant at that point. Sorry, the cat food thing is going off, if y'all can hear that in the background. It's their automatic feeder. But so I always felt this void. I always had a void, but I didn't know that it was Christ that I needed to fill that void. I think when I got saved, I didn't have the example in my home life. I didn't have the discipleship that I needed. And not long after that, my parents divorced, and it was messy. And so I took a different path. I have a very colorful past, and just tried different things to fill that void. And it wasn't until I was in college and hit pretty much rock bottom that I ended up truly reaching out to God, because I tried everything else and nothing else filled that void. So I reached out to God. I gave my life to him. And that's when I actually started walking alongside him, and I actually understood what it meant to be saved. And so that's kind of
I think, Susan, that's beautiful, and I actually didn't know your story, but I think it's really beautiful how we all, to me, you're saying the same thing. We came to Christ because of love. I'm setting up a foundation, and we had a void. And so then we flip that, and when we come into marriage, sometimes it's the same thing, that we come into marriage with, there's some type of void, and we want love. And nobody comes into marriage just to say, I just want to have a partner and we don't do life together. We come in because, as Donna said, I saw that yellow hat, and he looked great. And like, I heard that voice, because Kevin's voice is amazing. And then Susie said, I saw that athlete, because he's an athlete. And Delia's like, I saw that preacher, that missionary. And then Lisa, I saw the theologian that you didn't know he was going to be. But and plus, of course, they had to be good looking because there has to be attraction, I'm sure, at some point to all you guys. But I think it comes back to my foundation of asking the question about marriage and faith. And I think I wanted to integrate your faith story first with your marriage faith story because we've all been married for a while. And so it doesn't matter how great we are or how great our husbands are. At some point, we have to include the model of what God meant for us connecting to Him first. And so I think that, for example, for my own self, I realized that the big void of love that I had, that Kilrain could not fill. But I also realized I was not that nice of a person. Even Joy, don't say anything. I was not always a very nice person. Don't say anything. I wasn't always a very
You're a lovely person. What do you mean don't say?
I'm
You
not
wanted to
always
say
a
that.
very nice
You're a lovely
person.
person.
Yes, but not always nice. And I think that's something that you don't realize, especially when you're walking with the Lord on your own, because He corrects you, but He corrects you in a gentle kind of way. But when you're married, there is a mirror. So I want to start with there. What mirror did marriage show you, Donna?
Oh, wow. What a question, right? I think it's still showing me a mirror. I have a stack, you can't see it, of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 books, no lie, across from me right now. One is a Bible study book to help me keep going. Another is a book about how it's called Attachments. It's actually really good. How you attach to different people. It's actually written by a Christian author. Because that's something I'm working on. And I think that's something my marriage showed me recently, is that I have a tendency to hold people at arm's distance. And I can even do that with my husband. And I mentioned, and I'm just getting real here. I even mentioned, I realized I'm not wearing my wedding ring, but it's because I was doing pottery. So there we go. I really do have one. Promise I'm not lying. But anyway, I realized recently that I have spent a lot of time in my lifetime not fully trusting people, for whatever reasons. I'm just like, I really just don't trust a lot of people. And God was really showing me that recently. And I was thinking, it sounds so weird, but how much do I trust my husband? How much do I really trust my husband? And so this book has been particularly good for me because that's something that God brought to my heart recently. Was I need to put more trust in Him because God brought him into my life for a reason. And He's staying, thick or thin is really true. And what's also really true is the two become one. And so if I'm not trusting Him, I'm not fully trusting myself either in this walk. And this walk is difficult anyway. The world is pretty tough, right? I mean, there's a range of emotions and things that can happen to us on any given day at any second. And so to have somebody in this world that's your partner in crime, right? Because he went and did pottery with me too. So did our daughter and my mom. But
Oh, you have one
anyway,
more. It's okay, you got it.
yeah, so we're like each other's partner in crime. But I realized on a real visceral, deep level, I didn't fully trust him, which sounds so weird, but it is true. And so that's currently what I'm working on. That's the current thing and it's not even that Brad showed me that. I don't know that Brad could have showed me that, because if he did, I would have balked at it and probably been a little stinker saying something back like, well, that's not true. Not that I would ever do that.
Never, Donna.
Never. But
Please.
right. But God brought that to my heart. And then when I let God tell me a hard thing, right? And I said, okay, open the eyes of my heart, Lord, which is actually a real thing, right? Like literally open, like you've got clay, and open that clay, what's on the inside. Then I realized what was on the inside was I needed to develop more trust in my husband, which I think long term he'll feel more respected. I'll go to him. He has great scriptural knowledge, to go to him with more questions about Jesus. I could talk a long time, so I'll stop. But that's how God showed me the mirror to something that would benefit our marriage. And I did need to work on it. I'll admit it, I did, and I still am. I'm still reading the book.
Wow. Ladies?
Ooh, mirrors. Yeah, I think specifically, Chriselle, you mean in terms of the marriage, what the marriage has showed us in terms of ourselves. I think in marriage, forgiveness is like drink your coffee, like Susie drinks her coffee with her one stevia and one whatever. Forgiveness is like right the same thing. There's this consistency that we need to have for forgiveness. And I realized marriage for me showed me sort of that space in my heart where I was like, you do me wrong, I'm done. Even though I'd not really said that specifically out loud, my life, sort of the movements of my life, it's like, I would couch it in different ways, in really Christian ways. The Lord told me that it's time for us to move on, but it's just because I despise you, and I can no longer love you with the love of the Lord. And so I think marriage has showed me, because we all, like, we make mistakes, and there are things that happen in marriage, and so you have to forgive. You don't get to go, okay, like, we just bought this house, we have these children, we have life together. You did this, I'm leaving today. You have to find ways. And so I think for me, the mirror of marriage was just like, who had not forgiven, because that clearly, a lot of times marriage, we do things in marriage, but it's just a continuation of something. So for me, that's what marriage showed me. It's like, where else do I need to dig? I'm going to get the name of that book for you. I love the attachments and who that author is. But I read a lot of books on forgiveness and letting people go and releasing them and all of the different things like that. And what I've found is, in marriage, that's helped me with my marriage. It's also helped me with my children, because you can't just wash your hands of them either. So that's what, and I love it. Some of you, you're shaking your head, like how with the grandbaby coming, all the different things. I'm sure you could have stories of, like, Joy, it does not get us easy to these spaces, right? Your children do all kinds of different things, and you can't do that. So marriage for me, the mirror, forgiveness, letting go, and not holding people hostage for the things, and God reminding me of all the things that that only my grave will know about. That he has released me of. And so how dare I hold hostage, whether it's my husband or my children or whatever the case is. And so that's one of the mirrors, the big mirrors for me, that marriage has helped me with.
That's good. So forgiveness for Joy, and for Donna, trust. Susie.
Ooh, can you come back to me?
Delia.
I feel very blessed that, we're like speaking honestly, and we are hearing each other's heart. And I feel like, you know what, you're not alone. You've had these thoughts, and you can hear other people having these thoughts, and the enemy is just so crafty that way. He makes us feel like you're all by yourself. You're the only one. If anybody knew how mean you can be, if anybody knew how impatient you are with your own kids, you are a so-and-so, you're a missionary, you're whatever, you're la hermanita. But if they knew, what would they think of you, honestly? And you know what? We all have issues. I used to drink the Kool-Aid, so to speak, like, oh, they are so, amazing and stuff. And yes, people have gifts, and that's amazing. And praise the Lord for people's gifts and our gifts. But it boils down to, can I be vulnerable? When I look in the mirror, am I the same person? And this is my goal, to be the same person behind closed doors as I am when I'm preaching or teaching or whatever it is, or when I'm ministering, because it is something that I fight against. I want to be liked. I want people to see the good side of me. I want to have maybe a clever answer, or to have an answer to whatever the question is, because that's kind of how we're looked at. What should we do? Or, as a pastor, okay, am I wrong? Well, we're all wrong sometimes, and we all need help, and we all mess up, and we all, need to stand up and kind of brush the dirt off ourselves, and just pick ourselves up and live in grace. And that grace to me is being my true self with him. Like, I don't want to choke it down and not say what I'm thinking, because I should, I don't know, be perfect or something, or whatever that might mean. But yet I want to be vulnerable. I want not to be afraid to be vulnerable. But I'm not talking about wear my heart on my sleeve, or throw my pearls to swine. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about genuinely love the Lord. And when I'm wrong, I say I'm sorry to people. And when I, rejoice with them and cry with them and truly love them, because I'm not afraid to love, and that's scary. So that's what I'm learning right now. I'm trying to do.
Delia, so that's vulnerable, joy is forgiveness, and Donna is trust.
Can I say something real quick?
Go ahead.
All three that have answered, so I know that includes me, but they're all about risk taking, right? Forgiving is taking a risk, being vulnerable is just taking a risk, filleting yourself open for people to see inside, and trusting that somebody can help take care of your heart. Those are all about vulnerability. I think that's interesting that even though they're all very different words, you could look in the dictionary and they all would have totally different definitions. It's the crux is the same.
It is the same. That's a
Yeah.
good point. And I think it's the same because it also comes, like you said, with you have to be able to trust yourself, but you also have to be vulnerable to trust yourself. Really, I think it's also trust. And then you have to also trust yourself, like for joy, forgiveness, that you forgive someone that's not going to walk over you. But the funny thing is, even the people I know, you guys, and none of these things I would have thought you have said, because your persona that you come across is nothing like that at all. I would have never thought that.
Because we hide the squidgy spots of ourselves.
Yeah.
We hide those. I think in human nature is we clam that part up, and that's where we don't let God's grace come through.
Absolutely, absolutely. Joy said something I want to come back and piggyback to. She said that usually whatever it is that whatever issue, whatever mirror is shown in your marriage, usually is shown in other relationships as well. And I'm like, aha, so true. Because that's what marriage taught me. That whatever issues, most issues I had with my husband, or I thought I had, they showed up in all of my relationships. So then I knew it wasn't him. I knew it was a lot of something with me. And I think, again, that's the mirror of truth for me. So, Susie.
Okay. So I'd asked you to come back to me because I was trying to think of my word, because you had a word for everybody, like Donna's was trust and Joy's was fit. I was like, I don't have a word.
Flexible.
You do you, Susie.
Do you?
So I think, oh gosh. So my husband and I we're opposite in a lot of ways. So we balance each other out. And one thing is he's more the emotional one of the two of us. And I compartmentalize everything. Chriselle always picks at me. She's like, how do you do that? I want to be able, and my husband's the same thing. How do you compartmentalize everything? How do you put this over here in this box and then you can move to this, and then, it doesn't all mix together. But I'm like, it's not always a good thing to be like that. Yes, in some cases that, it is needed, because I can easily press the restart button and start fresh the next day. But I guess one thing we're working on is, balancing each other out is like making sure God is in all of those boxes, and that it's all intertwined, if that makes sense. Like, I want to put God in this box, and then my husband in this box, and then kids in this box, or work in it. Like, I need to make sure that God is woven throughout all of those boxes, because it's so easy for me to just compartmentalize things. So if that kind of makes sense, I don't know what word that I would use for that.
Because in your mirror is God. That's really deep.
Okay.
Yeah, that's deep.
Okay.
Deep. Lisa.
Well, I would like to say that I think that it's just interesting that we're having this conversation about a mirror, because this last week I've had 2 different friends reach out to me and ask me to pray for them, Christian women that love Jesus. And my best friend and I have been walking, and she was sharing with me, she was like, it's not safe to be authentic in the Christian community. And 2 days later, a friend says, can you meet me for coffee? I really need to talk. And I'm listening to her being booted out of her home group because of some issues that she was going through. And it's like, when we want to talk about marriage as Christian women, we can be pushed out, if that's acceptable to say here. It's very scary to be authentic and to reach out for help and to be able to say where we're at. And I know I have been through, and we all have because we've been married a long time. We go through seasons. I remember a season where I was like, if he goes missing, check the garden in the backyard. I might have even said that to Chriselle because it was around the time you and I were seeing each other every day. Chriselle was like my ledge talker many days. But that's what I feel like we as Christian women should be for each other, is those ledge talkers that you can really be authentic and say whatever you need to get off your chest, and know that you'll have somebody that's going to cheer you on and say, love God, love your husband, love your children. You're going to come out of this. Okay. It's okay to be in a bad place, and having those voices to tell us it's okay. I mean, think about what Paul said. Those of us who've been married, we understand this now, but before marriage, we're like, why is Paul talking about being single? After you've been married, you can answer that question, because some days it's like, it would be so much easier to just manage me and my heart. But I have this quote that I absolutely love. And when you brought up mirrors, I was like, yay. I call this quote my daily dagger. Like, it's just a reminder, and it's a hard one, but it goes like this. The beginning of love is to let those we love be perfectly themselves, and not to twist them to fit our own image. Otherwise, we love only the reflection of ourselves we find in them. And that was by Thomas Merton from No Man is an Island. But I love that because I can see many seasons in my marriage where I wanted him to fit my image, and I couldn't just let him be perfectly himself. And by doing that, I love the word attachment, because I'm reading attachment styles right now and understanding.
That's two of us.
My husband is avoidant attachment, which means I am always needing reassurance. There's little things like that, learning about my own attachment style and figuring out how that plays out in our children, how to encourage them, how to love them as they are. Oh my goodness, to love them being perfectly themselves. Like some days I really want to hand off and give my children to someone else.
Exchange program.
Hey, I think that is a new ministry right there that we should talk about in more detail.
Program.
Yeah, they could stay at each other, different houses, every now and then kids swap. But
do ages and everything. You take the 10-year-old, I'll take the 16-year-old, take the baby.
That's right. That's right. But I think it comes down to, Chriselle, authenticity. We want to be authentic, but we need to know we can do that in a safe space. And that's why I love your coffee talks. I think that that's what you're doing, is you're making a space for people to have those real, authentic conversations that are hard and scary. And I'm hoping that I'm not going to be arrested for, nobody's checking the garden.
How that we need to.
We got you, Lisa. We got you, sister.
And the funny thing is, because I have been in this Christian community for a long time, I knew how to navigate this without having a lot of hot spots, because I understand. And so I think that's the sad part of it, because I think for non-Christian women, sometimes they just like, they just blah, and then they just move on, or they don't move on. But for us, it's like we come into this, like, I don't exactly know
dancing. We're doing the Christian dance. Like, what can we say? Is this out of faith, or we say this, that means we don't believe God is good, or he's able to change. So we keep so many things inside. There's a podcast I was listening to, Dr. Anita Phillips. She has a book coming out called The Garden Within. And it was just so funny to me. And I don't know why it struck me now. Some seasons things hit you differently. But she said, Jesus cried, like he has all kinds of a range of emotions. He cried at Lazarus' tomb, and he knew he was going to raise him up. Like, why was he crying? He flipped tables. Like all kinds of different, of course, it was the godly thing, right? The reason he was doing what he was doing, but he had all sorts of emotions and feelings inside this human experience that he was having. But a lot of times in the Christian world, we want to say, don't say that. Or if you say that you don't believe God, it's like, no, today I'm really angry and or this really hurt me. Or this devastated us and we're going to have to recover from this. Versus just, yes, the Lord is on my side and he is with us and he is our savior. He is, but this was devastating, and being able to say that and still have the faith that you need to and the strength to move on. And so I think we do each other an injustice. And when there's things that happen inside the community, and we in the Christian communities with high profile people, and you see what's done to them, so stay in like the closet, if for, in lack of a better word, like stay with your stuff behind the scenes, don't tell anybody. So it just it causes an illness. And a diseased feeling. You talk about toxicity in workplaces, but there's an illness that happens in our church, I think, environments, by trying to keep everyone's sicknesses secret, when we know that we're a broken people. That's why we need a savior. So why are we pretending that all is well everywhere, every day? Because it's not.
That's what I was talking. Donna was helping me with some marketing stuff, and she's talking about, well, who do you want to market this to? Go to your church. I'm like, well, I'm not sure if my church would kind of accept this way. And because really, you have to trust the community that you're in. Even though you guys don't know each other, I know you. And so that, I think it also helps. I knew that your personalities would mesh together. But I think for women to actually, Christian women, back to Christian women, to feel safe, it has to be, I think Donna said, real Jesus, real trust, real conversations. And I think that's really what it boils down to. If you don't have that, then you become Stepford wives, the Christian Stepford wives. You just become like, everything's great, the Lord's great, which he is great. And I think that's where the faith comes in. That's where the faith comes part. For married, we're different than a woman who's not a believer. We have the faith that God has put with his partner for a reason, and then there's seasons that we may not like them or like ourselves or like our kids or whatever, but that's
the dog, the parents,
the dogs, family people die, you have elderly people, you have your own sicknesses or changing or whatever, but that doesn't change that your faith in God, that's where the foundation is. And I think for me, I know for sure that for marriage, it has to be that faith, the faith that I received at 12, I think 11 and 12, is what kept me through seasons of like, oh my God, where are you at? I don't even like you today, God. I'm like, why did you let me do this? Or whatever type of thing, whatever it is. And I think that faith has to keep us because I think Lisa's the longest been married. As you go, not to where you love your husband, you're great, you figure it out, but then kids start to do what they do. And then parents start to get sick and things like that, or they die, or life changes and things like that. So then you're holding on to faith. And also, like Donna said, I think Donna and Joy both said, my ride or die. And that's the beauty of marriage. And it's, I think again, if I had another thing for the mirror for marriage to me, is letting my husband to be human. And letting him be human, actually let God be God, like what Susie said. And let God be God and him be human. And then when you have that, then you're able to ride and die all the seasons of life. So I have one last question. I can go on forever with this, but I think I have one last question about your husband's particular. What is admirable about their faith? Like what about their faith has strengthened you that's different from your own faith walk? Anybody can jump in.
Yeah, I told Kedron that today we were talking, and we just like, I'm a middle child, so I'm like, why do you love me again? Like right now, like tell me, like what is it? Like, we kind of do this thing. He's like, do I love you because you're hard worker? Like that's what I do. Who I am is what I need to do. And so I usually start off with telling him, because he's like, I can tell you, like, needs some time to think about another answer that he told me last week when I asked. But I said, what I said? I love about you, Kedron. He's like, what? I said, you're always in the ring. You always stay in the ring, marred, scarred. I said, if you get dragged out the ring, back in the ring with me. And I said, I love that about you. And what I mean by that is just the ring of life, the ring of struggle, the ring of raising kids, the ring of, like you said, losing parents, losing all sorts of things that happen in life. I said, but you never get out of the ring. And I just love that about who you are. And he's like, thank you. And I was like, now, can you tell me why you, but but this is why I love you. Because so that's the answer to the question, Chriselle. Like Kedron he's that. So when I say ride or die, like, I don't mean like these kids mean on Instagram and Twitter. Like, I mean, like crying and oh my goodness. And like, we're in it together. And so that's what I mean. Not perfect. Sometimes we're in the ring scarred because of the other. You know what I mean? And so, but we're still in it. And I think when you totally get out of it, that's when you have sort of anything is possible, whether it's divorce or divorce in the home, where you're there and just there, living in the space together. So that's Kedron Bell. And Kedron, my birthday is December 31st. I want a Nespresso like my friend Donna has, because I just told everybody that I love you.
And the attachment book.
Hey, the attachment book, Kedron Bell. Come on. So that's Kedron in the ring.
It's so true. He's my favorite.
This morning I was bragging to Brinley about Brad, and he was sitting beside me at church. So we were down on my parents' land because the pottery place was just north of Waco and they lived down that way. And so it's this tiny Church of Christ. They had 35 people there praising the Lord. And boy, Brad loves that church. And he is very anti, we all get together and worship together. And I know the Bible talks about that, but he thinks a lot of people put their value on it. That's not God's value on it. He just wants to drill down and get down to what does the scripture say? What does God want? And be as authentic as possible. Right. And so I was telling Brinley, I was like, that's one thing, he's right over my shoulder, I love about Daddy is Daddy really drills down to the truth. And I said, Benny Bear, her name's Brinley, but Benny Bear, that's why Daddy loves this church, this little bitty church, because these people are here to worship the Lord with everything they have. And they put it all forward. And I'm not saying other churches don't, but his giftedness in Jesus is to really take all the muck and everything else and just sweep it away and be left with the gem that is Jesus, his word, and what he wants for us. He does not get distracted by the world or what other people put on what they think God's word means. It's truly incredible. I call him the trigger man in our relationship, because I'll know all the information and I'll know too much and I can't move forward. And he's able to just drill down to exactly what we need to know to make the best decision for our family. So he not only does it with Jesus and religion, and when we move, that's the church we'll go to. We're already bought in. We love them. But he just does it like we're trying to buy a car, or should we go to the movies tonight? I mean, I can make my own decisions too, but I just rely on him heavily to filter out the world so that we just have left what Jesus wants for us.
That's beautiful.
Good.
That's beautiful. Celia?
Well, ever since I've met Peter, he is real low key. He's really balanced and stable and like sound mind kind of guy. And he's the kind of guy that even when he's not scolding, but even when he's correcting to the children or whatever, they feel his warmth. And I don't have that gift. When I'm upset, you can hear it in my voice. When I'm tired of telling you for the 5th time to clean your room, you are gonna hear it definitely in the volume of my voice. But my husband has always shown me just this I don't know how to explain. I mean, honestly, when we first got married, I was like, I'm gonna make him scream. I just can't believe people don't scream. You can't trick me. I know you got it in you, buddy. And I would get him all fired up about something. I'm just so mad about this. And one time we argued because he didn't fold the towels, the guest towels in the bathroom. They were all disheveled. And I'm like, do you know you're not even supposed to touch those? Anyway, and I've never heard my husband, sounds crazy to me, even saying it out loud, but I've never heard him yell. And that must be a God thing, because I don't understand. I mean, I believe that he thinks of things coolly. He walks away and thinks it's not as big a deal as I think it is when I'm all worked up about something that's harmful to me. Like, it's only hurting myself by getting all worked up. That's what I mean by that. But so I love that about him, that he's a rock. His name is Peter, and he is definitely a rock. So I thank the Lord for that.
Susie?
So Darius he grew up in the church, and he had a mom who took him to church every Sunday, and they like lived out what they were taught on Sundays. And so his faith is really strong, and he's really good about bringing us together as a family. Like, we have a family meeting every Sunday, and we talk about, okay, we do our schedule for the week, but what are our prayer requests for this week? What do we need to be praying about as a family? Who do we need to be praying for? And then he'll have a question, like maybe from the sermon that day, that he asks us to reflect on, and we actually write it down, and then we'll revisit it the next week. Or he'll challenge us, like, I want you to spend just 10 minutes with God, just no electronics, no phones, no Kindle, no nothing, just spend 10 minutes a day with God. I mean, we really should be giving him more than that, but just as like a baby step. And so then he'll come back the next week and be like, okay, how did everybody do with their 10 minutes? And we'll all be honest, maybe I got 5 in here or 2 in there, and he's not judgmental. He's like, okay, that's a start. We're gonna work on strengthening that, but he's just really good at leading us spiritually, leading our household. He is. And I see, unfortunately, I see a lot of husbands who are not strong leaders of their household. And I'm so thankful that I have a husband who is a strong spiritual leader, and he sets the example for our girls as they're growing in their faith as well. So yeah.
That's beautiful. And last but not least, Lisa.
I'll say that the thing I love most about my husband, and I've always said this about him, I think that man loves Jesus more than anybody I know. And it's because I have seen him love the Lord in hard things, when he didn't understand and when he was angry, and he was like, I can tell God how angry I am. He can handle it, and he just has these conversations. He loves to swim laps to the books of the Bible. And as he's swimming a lap, and he's thinking about every chapter in that book. And I love that his love for Jesus plays out in passion for scripture. And he is a technically minded person. He's an IT guy, but I think he thinks in computer languages. And so anything he learns, like with Hebrew, he wrote a Hebrew iParsing tool online that seminary students could use to parse out their verbs. He wrote a Hebrew verse-based reader. He has Greek iParsing, and he's got all these computer things because he wants to design tools for pastors. Because he feels like if they are going to lead us and shepherd us, they need to have these tools and access. And not everybody is great at languages, but shouldn't they know what Jesus was saying? And so he also wrote a text messaging ministry called Spend a Year with Jesus, where you can get 3 texts a day walking through Jesus' last year of ministry. And it just kind of gives you time and place that Jesus is stuck in traffic right now outside the Jerusalem gate, and I am stuck in Dallas traffic right now and hating life because of the heat or whatever. And thank the Lord I'm not outside in sandals on a dirty road. But I love the way that he wants to connect the world with Jesus. His love for Jesus plays out in building these tools and things so that other people can meet Jesus the way he does. And I love that about him.
I think all your husbands are wonderful. And I think that I'm going to bring it back to Kilrain. I'm going to end here. But I think what he taught me is actually practical faith. Because I didn't realize, again, it's kind of weird, where I just became this church girl. And I really was not living my faith out. I mean, I read the Bible and I did all the right things, but I didn't really understand how to integrate that into the tough things of life. And I think because he did not grow up that way, I learned how to trust God even when I don't understand him, and to have faith even when I really don't feel him, because I'm more feeling based. And so I think his faith, practical faith, helped me to say, you know what, God, I'm gonna get up and pray this morning. I don't feel like praying today. Even though I haven't felt you in 5 years, I'm still gonna pray today. I'm gonna be consistent. I'm gonna love my family, love my sister, love my friends. do trust, as Donna said, learn how to trust people and give them the right to be in your life when they prove it. Just joking. You know, allowing God to show you those things. But I think for sure He gave me practical faith and not just this ethereal, like, you know, God is and I am, and I don't really know how to walk this out my whole life. And so I thank you ladies so much for joining me today, but I would like to end on a funny question. So we know in heaven that there is no marriage. I know people talk about that, but I don't think really you can really prove that. And at least if I'm wrong, because your husband, he's a theologian, so is Delia as well, let me know. So let's imagine if heaven was perfect and we could get married, what superstar would you marry? Donna.
Oh, I don't know yet. Give me a minute.
Like go to Susie. Susie's always last. Like
Susie.
Susie on the spot.
Processor, I have to think about it.
Really? Okay, Lisa.
I'm sorry, but you know what? The funniest thing is that the first name that came to my mind, which I was like, but no, I don't think so, was Sean Connery. Like, he's an old guy and he's timeless. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Yeah.
I can see that. I can see that.
Well, I have a not old guy, but I was in Louisiana this past week, and I was in a hotel, and somehow got caught up in the Bourne series with Matt Damon. Go back to I bought the next installment like at the hotel, and then I was so mad because I'm like, wait, where's he? Like he left the series after the. When I get off right now, I'm going to buy the first two so I can see Matt Damon. So I'm gonna see him here and in heaven. So there you go, Matt Damon.
Matt Damon, yeah, he's kind of good looking too. All right, Donna.
Okay, I cannot think of a star. All I can think of, y'all are gonna laugh, is Jesse Duplantis. He's a preacher.
Yes. That's gonna happen.
I know, that's crazy. I think I have a short thing for guys who are shorter than me, because I'm like 5'10". My husband's shorter than me. This guy would be shorter than me. I don't know.
That is
love
so funny.
Charisma. I think his charisma when he is preaching is fantastic, and he just draws people into him. So I think if I had to live forever in heaven with somebody, it'd be Jesse Duplantis.
Donna, you surprise us every single time.
Oh my goodness.
Jesse, okay. Jesse, Delia.
You can take Matt. You can take Matt if you need to.
I can say what?
You can take Matt Damon if you need to. You can take
I can't believe we're having this conversation, but you know, okay, I'm gonna say something really corny, but you know, Fireproof.
Yeah. Oh,
I have my own personal Kirk Cameron, which is Peter Bright, and so I know it sounds corny, but
this sounds corny.
I'm gonna leave it at that. I'm gonna leave it at that.
Kirk Cameron. All right, there we go. All right, and Susie, you're not getting out of this, Susie.
I know. And my family picks about this too. It'll probably be Mark Wahlberg. He's kind of like that bad boy. He's got that bad boy vibe, but he is a Christian, like in real life. He's a very devout, you know, Catholic. So, but yeah, he's always been one of my favorite actors. So.
Okay, mine will be Kenny Rogers. And on that note.
You know what?
The gambler. I love it.
Okay, on that note, thank you ladies for this wonderful conversation. And we will again. Thank you, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Bye.